The Northern Penal Code.
Okay.
Yeah, penal code and criminal code is I think 1940s, 1960s.
Incredible.
The the more recent ones are the ones that have been passed by the state. So yes, it's good work to River State House of Assembly, and we need to look at a lot of other laws with
Yes.
respect to this.
Thank you so much for me. Let's go through your messages. Shegun says, when you want public sympathy against the federal government, just shout dictatorship. All because Buhari was a soldier. ASU, could it work? Comply. That's what Sheikh since 2015. And once you're a staff of the government, you can't dictate how government will pay you. Abby says, good morning. Abby from Ikoyi, thank you. The real fear is not ignorance, but intentionally not to not disclose earnings as well as plug fraud. Oh, by the way, one of the requirements that the Office of the Attorney General, Accountant General actually is asking for is your bank statements. Aha. Mecca from Ikeja says, Devoe, ASU's reasons are far from being altruistic. You think government has not explained to them? They simply want to continue with multiple earnings across universities. Ugboma Chidozie says, I kind of support the university on this. Let the federal government go fix the IP system first before forcing the universities to comply. David said, regarding ASU, I think the issue really is instances where a lecturer is working in more than one university at the same time. There will be the fear that the IPs would expose and stop this. This is different from visiting lecturers or sabbatical scenarios. Omololu said the problem with the IP system is that you can't have two registration numbers. The fear of ASU is once you're captured, you can't register again, which means so far you're a civil servant, and where you go or anywhere you go to, even when you change from one ministry to another, you maintain the IP's number registered in your name. The government needs to make this platform flexible. Our next story touches on the death penalty thing regarding hate speech. From this day reports that the Nigerian Governors Forum yesterday rejected the proposed death penalty for hate speech in the bill at the National Assembly. This was the meeting actually where this was discussed was presided over by the Vice Chairman of the NGF, Nigerian Governors Forum, and Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and he said that really the federal government should respect the views of Nigerians in whatever may be the direction of debates and eventual passage or otherwise of that bill. Why do you think the governors are throwing their weights behind this? Is it for a general public interest,
the general
or
good,
the personal interest?
But the truth is, this is not news. Governors have always been afraid of that thing called the death penalty. Currently, you have, I think, over 5,000, if not more, Nigerians on death row, meaning they have been convicted. But the only reason they haven't been hung or euthanized is simply because the governors have refused to sign the death warrants. And it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. Now, in this same case, they have also rejected in that same spirit the death penalty to the hate speech. Now, remember, that does not mean they're not for the bill. So what they have said is that they have admonished the National Assembly to carry out stakeholder forums, public forums with Nigerians to be able to explain what this is all about.
Okay, so I want us to be careful not to, in analyzing the story or reviewing it objectively, let's not compare it or bring it too close to social media bill or the prohibition of free speech, so to speak, because hate speech in itself is when it's alluding or statements that are made to discredit somebody's personality in relation to their ethnicity, religion, certain affiliations like that. And we know that politicians, religious leaders, some of them are culpable of using this.
Yes,
which is why I asked you that first question. Is it a matter of personal interest or general interest of the public?
And that's why I explained that even before the hate speech bill, they were always against death row. Okay. Now, the truth is this. The National Assembly does need to carry out more public forums to ensure that people are carried along, or people understand, or people are with them, which is a real issue here.
Okay.
Because the governors, one of the speakers, that's Tambuwal, did mention that their position is also the position of the people, because the speed at which it's passing, I think it's on the second reading now.
It is.
I don't think Nigerians are in consonance with that speed. And two, what I would say is this: remember, this was about internet falsehood and hate speech. Despite the current laws, and this is where many people have a problem, we have current laws on slander, defamation, libel, and even cybercrime. So where are you coming from? Is it unconnected to the will of politicians to be able to muscle or muzzle our lips where it concerns, because they realize that unlike the media that they can control, the social media gives people that democracy and that freedom to be able to say their minds.
So we're tethering towards that.
Yeah. Now, but let me tether back. What I would say is this: the sense of urgency of this, our National Assembly, and their priorities is very questionable, because I expect them to focus on issues that have to do with our economic growth and stability and security matters that have bedeviled Nigeria. I don't expect issues at this of regarding this that already exist being at the top of the burner of our National Assembly. They need to get serious and do their work. They have more than enough on their platter. The country is in a state that many question on a daily basis, and this is what they bring to the table.
The Punch newspaper reports that the Central Bank of Nigeria, Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and other 22 other revenue-generating agencies have been given 7 days ultimatum by the Senate to submit their audited accounts. They want to hurry this up before they go on the Christmas recess. Ugo, please, what are your thoughts regarding this story?
I have mixed feelings about this. So let's start with the positive, right? If you have a government that is trying to, address revenue challenges as well as curtail, recurrent expenditure, you want to know how government agencies are actually spending money, and the money that they are receiving, either through grants or budgeting or through whatever fees that they charge. And for a lot of these agencies, don't actually see their annual report. So you see a DG or DG of an agency gone through 4 years, and you never publish any annual report. So nobody knows, how you're spending money, how much you're spending on salaries, how much you're spending on purchases and things like that. So, and if you have these things published, then you have better transparency. And one way or another, people start to, with better transparency, people, excesses are basically reduced. So in a way, that also addresses corruption-related issues. So yes, I support it, and I don't think it's just submit to the National Assembly. I think that is something that they should make public. It should be on their website, so people should easily just go and download their annual reports, just the way you look at annual report public companies, right? And then look at it. We are all shareholders of Nigeria, so I should be able to see, what, for example, National Sports Commission is doing with their income and their expenditure. But the negative here is, why is the National Assembly asking for this report towards Christmas? And why are you giving them 7 days ultimatum when you know they probably haven't done it for years?
Maybe because you want them to pass the 2020 appropriation bill.
I don't know.
Don't you
Or
think?
are you trying to, obtain them?
What is that?
Yeah.
So you have such little.
Yes. So cynical me is saying, look, you've now gathered, somebody has just come in and said, come, how do we raise money this period? Like, it's getting to Christmas. How do we raise money? Let's just gather all the parastatals, all of you come. Submit your annual report. And you know what that means? That's basically trust. So a lot of these guys that haven't submitted an annual report and running around and they have things to hide.
Yes.
Oh yeah, come.
It's not just annual
away.
reports for 2019, by the way. It's actually expenditure operations reports between 2017 and 2018.
Exactly.
So all these
that basically exposes everything that you do. So this one is enough to rattle, all these agencies. So in a way, so positively, yes, I like it. I think they should sustain it. It's not just sending it to National Assembly. They should make it public. There should even be a law, if there probably is one, but there should be something that says, look, you got to publish your annual reports on your website. For example, we haven't seen CBN annual report for 2018, and I understand that it's been signed, but we haven't seen it. So it's important to see CBN's annual report so that you know what the CBN's balance sheet is like, considering a lot of the intervention funds that have been happening over the last few years, at least since this administration. So you don't see those things, and you don't really know where we are in terms of how government agencies are using funds that are appropriated to them. Okay. So that's the good side. But on the other side, National Assembly, man, I'm just sorry. Just the cynical side just kind of
very interesting analysis, Ugo. Thank you very much. And this is actually very closely related to the next story, because from yesterday, we looked at the records for 3 years, as reported by Premium Times, that was disbursed in terms of amounts that were disbursed as part of constituency funding for between 2015 and 2017. They had figures like 50 billion, 70 billion, and all that amounts. They said it amounted to over 1.4 trillion naira. And when I say they, I'm referring to the ICPC. They reported that in a 10-year period, 1.4 trillion naira had been disbursed as part of the constituency funding or to fund constituency projects. Well, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission came up with this report, but the lower chamber of the National Assembly is faulting their report, saying that this is not true. The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, accused the anti-graft agency of being economical with the truth on the funds released for the projects within the period under review. But in saying this, I'm going to very quickly just chip this in. We should know, because yesterday we talked about it extensively, how these funds were released. And at first hearing, you would automatically assume that this money was given to National Assembly members.
Right.
We should establish here that those funds are not released expressly to the National Assembly
It's
members.
not even, doesn't even come close to them.
It's in the purview of the executive.
Yes.
But the National Assembly members are tasked with, providing oversight to how these monies are used.
Of course,
right?
because they lobbied for this.
Okay.
Now the truth is this: you have to give Buhari one thing. This his new moral high of checking or requesting for accountability. I need him to continue. I need the presidency to put his searchlight on practically all MDAs. MDAs are ministries, departments, and agencies.
Well, he said it 1 week after the elections and the results were announced. He said this administration is going to be hard.
So I'm just happy. So the check on the NDDC, now on the ICPC projects. Now the truth is it's been a long dark shadow over the National Assembly over who has the authorization regarding constituency projects. Remember, this was the issue that held up the budget being passed, because they were pushing for more as against what the executive said that they wanted, and Buhari then said that this was going to slow down or not enable him to complete many of his projects. So it paints a dodgy picture as to, is it really an executive thing or is it an assembly thing? However, the minority leader, that's Ugo Dre, drew the attention of the House with the outburst from the Speaker himself, Femi Gbajabiamila, that the claims seem to be faulty, that these claims that the ICPC has said have unintended consequences, and that they're capable of pitching Nigerians against them if they feel that they have spent all this money and nothing has come out of it. Now, Ugo Dre did go further and stated that the ICPC should have asked questions through invoking the FOI bill, and that if they looked at it carefully, the actual figures were around 50% of the 1 trillion, which is about 600 billion plus across 10 years. Now, that there's a difference between money budgeted and money released, which is a reminder of Mr. Fix-It, Tony Anene, who used to say money approved is not the same as money appropriated.
In answer to that question, there was an infographic that was published by the Premium Times in 2018. I made reference to this yesterday. In 2015, 50 billion was released for an estimated 1,284 projects in various constituencies. 2016, 80 billion was released to about 2,515 projects across various constituencies. 2017, 70 billion was released for 2,600 projects, all summing up to 200 billion in 3 years. So how is it? I mean, in 10 years, is it too far-fetched?
Between the House and the ICPC, we also have the Office of the Accountant General. These are figures that are very easily to be accounted for. However, the minority leader, Abaribe, did mention that and broke the logic, which is what I want to bring out. He said that they're not worried. Why? Because there has been an argument of who is responsible for it, and it clearly lies by understanding of our constitution. Constitutional projects lie in the hands of the executive. So you should be asking, the ICPC should be addressing this issue to the executives. That's what happened to the implementation and the execution of all these monies that were given to constitutional projects. You're actually knocking on the wrong doors.
So the lawmakers can be faulted for not following.
They can be. No, they can't be faulted because they lobbied for it. Okay. We can fault them, but the ICPC can't hold them responsible for the implementation of the constituency projects.
Thank you. Lukman from Terminal Bridge Traffic says, Funmi, please shed more lights on the outdated laws on Twitter. At Funmi Odude is our handle.
It's frightening.
Let's stay with you for this next one. President Buhari signs executive order to tackle open defecation in Nigeria. 2 days ago, it was International Men's Day, right? On the same day, interestingly, was International Toilet Day or World Toilet Day. But on the heels of these and more, the president signed yesterday an executive Order 009 that is titled the Open Defecation Free Nigeria by 2025 and Other Related Matters Order. Your thoughts?
Okay, so very quickly, because we don't have much time, the order established in the Ministry of Water Resources a national secretariat called Clean Nigeria Campaign Secretariat. Just to say that at least we're not creating another commission for this. The secretariat is authorized to ensure that there's implementation of the order that all public places, including schools, hotels, fuel station, places of worship, marketplaces, hospital and offices, have accessible toilets and latrines within their premises. The ministries are supposed to work with the National Assembly and state houses of assembly to enact legislation on the practice of open defecation with sanctions and penalties. And this is so to tackle this is, at least we're interested in it, and the executive order shows that the government is interested in working towards it. But I think to tackle open defecation, the major conversation is about the creation of toilets.
Yes.
And also indiscipline.
Well,
yes, during Operation Y, if you were here, Nigerians got themselves to stop each other from doing this.
But you have to
taking a leak in public.
Stop something,
in the urban centers, Devoe.
Even when you travel on the road, people park by the side, open their wrappers, and let it out.
There is that aspect of it, but there's also the aspect of the fact that in rural areas there are no accessible toilets,
no infrastructure.
A lot of these communities still use the pit latrines, and it's fine. It's not just in
pit latrine. They open nature inside the bush.
We have how many communities have access to clean water? And then there's the other issue of even the waste management. So we pack all of this waste. Where do we dump them? So this is a very wide conversation, and we are lacking behind. And so he goes beyond just creating sanctions and creating penalties. Yes, we can do that for the people that are very indisciplined and can't wait till they get into their offices. But there's still a very strong conversation regarding. I know Bill Gates Foundation has been working tirelessly to get to manufacture or to invent toilets that don't need water because of communities and areas where there's no access to clean water. So this is a conversation that we still have to have with respect to access to clean water, with respect to waste management.
Yeah, but I'll also ask, what happens if you're pressed in Lagos traffic?
Oh, please, Devoe,
that's the truth.
Go use a bathroom.
The fact that you haven't done it in your car before is enough reason to hold on to you get home.
If you're pressed in Lagos traffic, what will you do?
Devoe, I understand your sentiments, but let's be realistic. We have 774 local government areas in this country. Only 11 are free of open defecation. We have over 40% of Nigerians who still practice it today. Okay, 6 million Nigerians. Let me know.
You have not answered my question.
6 million Nigerians. All right,
let's.
Abby says, "Oh, please, Abby. Sorry, the message is pretty long." Dickwell says, "How many people would ignore clean, well-maintained public toilets and defecate openly instead?" Aya from Aleria says, "Women also stay in Lagos traffic and hold their pee." Wow. Okay. Our next story. This time around, Ugo, is for you from Daily Times. Breaking news: representatives move to abolish payment of acceptance fees in tertiary institutions. Please, let's quickly read through this.
Yeah. So quickly, you do know that whenever you apply for, to get into tertiary institutions, especially federal government universities or state universities, apart from paying your tuition, they still tell you to pay these ridiculous acceptance fees. And so the government is saying, look, National Assembly is saying, look, they got to do something about these acceptance fees, and they want it abolished. And so they're trying to pass a law that will, stop these tertiary institutions from accepting acceptance fees. And I think to them, what is really upsetting is that they give you the acceptance fees, and then if you can't pay it, and you now start to surcharge you, on top, and then if you now can't pay, they just deny you admission into the university. So this is completely different from tuition. But on the flip side, you gotta look at for tertiary institutions, this is just ways of basic
revenue generation.
So the National Assembly needs to actually look at that aspect. The rep needs to look at the revenue drivers, because they're trying to raise revenue. And then on the student side, it's about time we start to look at student loans. If you want people to actually get educated, these so-called people that you're looking to help, especially poor people in Nigeria, indigenous people, you got to have some kind of student
I like
loans.
that.
Yeah.
But when you look at our unemployment rate in Nigeria, I mean, how?
Yeah, but people
How they pay back.
who create jobs are also people who go to school. So it's not, people don't go to school so that they can always be employees. They can also go to school so that you're an employer. So you need that education as well if you're going to create jobs. Yeah.
And just to discourage the kind of videos that we saw yesterday.
Well,
Thank you, gentlemen
it's a
and
career.
lady.
I thought you would never get there.
At Funmi Odude.
Say no to hypocrisy.
Remember all the the
Yes.
request you have. Follow her, please, so you can catch those details. Devoe Okorie is at Devoe Okorie. And Ugo Dre, thank you so much for staying back at Devoe Okorie. Next, let's talk entertainment inside of the grapevine. Our guest will be Maka.